What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog. Got another fun video for you guys. This one looking at a Temur list built around this guy right here, Nikya of the Old Ways. For 3 red and green, you get a 5/5 legendary creature, Centaur Druid. You can't cast non-creature spells. However, whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana of any type that land produced. And one of the new cards we just got is Nyxbloom Ancient for green for a 5/5 enchantment creature elemental with trample. And if you tap a permanent for mana, it produces 3 times as much of that mana instead. So we're building around Nikya, so we're all in on the creature plan, and we're running the Nyxbloom Ancient. So whenever we tap a land for mana, we get 1 from Nikya, plus the Nyxbloom Ancient means we're getting 3 times instead. So we're going to be just trying to ramp like crazy, but only playing creature spells, so no finales or anything like that. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to kind of ramp in our early game. So obviously for Incubation Druid, as a 0/2 for 2, we can tap to add 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce. And also has the nice little adapt function for 5. We can adapt 3, so it'll get 3 +1/+1 counters on it. So it's a decent creature in the late game as well. Nice 3/5 body. Let's have 4 Paradise Druids for a 2/1 with Hexproof as long as it's untapped, and we can tap it for 1 mana of any color. So 3-color deck, this is absolutely perfect for what we're trying to do. A couple of Thrashing Brontodons, just a nice 3/4 for 3, and it's got the instant speed ability where you can pay 1 to sack it and destroy an artifact or enchantment. So just a nice main deck enchantment and artifact hate. And even just as a 3/4 body for 3, it's already really good, and it's going to slow our opponent down for them in those aggressive matchups, since we are just trying to build up and get to our late game and then just cast some massive X spells and do crazy stuff like that with our Nikya and Nyxbloom combo. And another way that can help us do that is Klothys. We're going to run a 3 of. It's a 4/5 for 1 red and green, indestructible. As long as your devotion to red and green is less than 7, Klothys isn't a creature. So it's going to take us a little while for it to actually build up to a creature, but since we're all in on creatures, that's going to be counting towards our devotion. Obviously the Nyxbloom Ancient has 3 devotion just by itself. So once we get going a little bit, this shouldn't be hard to turn into a nice 4/5 indestructible. But then we can ramp up or just gain some life, as at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a land, we get to add red or green. Otherwise, you gain 2 life, and Klothys deals 2 damage to each opponent. So another way to kind of slow down the aggressive matchups, as we'll get some life gain out of it. Same thing here with Euro, Titan of Nature's Wrath for 1 green and blue. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, we get to gain 3 life, draw a card, and put a land from our hand onto the battlefield. So everything what we're trying to do here, draw some cards, using creatures to draw cards, gain some life, and ramp up. And so this is just a beautiful. And then with the escape function, it gives us a nice late game threat against removal heavy matchups. And 3 Beast Whispers here, moving on to our 4-drop slot for 2 green with a 2/3. So it's just okay. However, whenever we cast a creature spell, draw a card. Since everything in our deck is creature spells, except for the lands, of course, we're going to be drawing a lot of cards, and just having a creature that can do that is pretty powerful. Moving up to the 5-drop slot, we got a couple Biogenic Ooze for 3 green with a 2/2. That one enters. We also created another 2/2 Ooze creature token. And at the beginning of our end step, we put a +1/+1 counter on each Ooze you control. Now with Nikya and Nyxbloom Ancient tapping for millions of mana, we can pay 1 green to create a 2/2 Ooze creature token. So the dream is to get one of these guys down, have a Nikya and some Nyxbloom Ancients down, and just have like a million green mana and just flood the board with 2/2 Ooze tokens that are getting +1/+1 counters on them each end step. And yeah, just win that way maybe. And then our big X spells running all 4 Voracious Hydras. So it's kind of a nice bit of removal. And then the X spell works really well with our ramp plan. So it's a 0/1 trample. However, it enters the battlefield with X +1 counters on it. And we get to choose to either double the number of counters on it, or we can have it fight a creature that we don't control. So it's nice removal in a creature-only deck in Temur colors. And just nice powerful X spell with trample. So if we can get this like ridiculously large with some of our other creatures down, Nikya and Nyxbloom specifically, and just make this gigantic. And another thing is the Hydroid Krasis, of course, as a X green and blue for a 0/0. And whenever we cast a spell, we gain X life and draw X cards, round down each time. And of course, that has the trample, so we're going to trample through for just 1,000,000 damage. And but we do have to be careful, obviously, not to deck ourselves because we can just make gross amounts of mana. Moving on to the mana base, we got a couple islands, couple mountains. Just the one Castle Garenbrig, since we are 3 colors. Don't want to go too crazy on this. 3 forests, and then all the shocklands, steam vents, stomping ground, breeding pool, and then Fabled Passage as a 4 for some fixing, since we have some pretty intense mana costs. So just making sure that we have what we need when we need it. And going over to sideboard real quick, since we are kind of a late game deck, just trying to ramp and then just do crazy things in the late game, we do need some help in the early game matchup, in the aggressive matchups. So early game creatures like Healer of the Glade as a 1/2 that when enters we gain 3 life. So just a life gain and having a nice little blocker in the early turns can really help. A couple of Cerulean Drakes against those red, mono red, and Gruul type matchups. It's a 1/1 flyer with protection from red, and it has a nice little ability here where we can sack it to counter a spell that targets you. Phoenix of Ash. Just kind of seems like a fun card to play with whole the ramp that we're doing, as we can pump mana into it to give it +2/+0 until end of turn. By itself, it's just a 2/2 flying haste for 1 red. And it does have escape for 2 in double red, exiling 3 other cards from our graveyard that it escapes with a +1/+1 counter on it. So it can help us out in certain matchups as a nice aggressive threat that can come down in the kind of the early to mid game. And if we do have our Nikya and our Nyxbloom Ancient down, then we can pump a bunch of mana into it and just deal ridiculous amounts of damage. And a couple more Thrashing Brontodons for those artifact and enchantments that we need to get rid of. Banishing Lights, Amber Cleave, things like that. Shifting Ceratops kind of gives us some game against the counterspell, control, Simic Flash, stuff like that, as it's a 5/4 for 4 that can't be countered and has protection from blue. And just a nice little ability to be able to put a green mana in to give it reach, trample, or haste until end of turn. And here's another card that I've always kind of looking for some excuse to play. It's Mesmerizing Benthid. It's a 3 blue for a 4/5. When it enters, we create 2 0/2 blue illusion creature tokens with, whenever this creature blocks a creature, that creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So they're just 0/2 creatures, so they're not really going to do much, but then it kind of disincentivizes our opponent from attacking in because we just jump block with those 0/2s, and then that whatever we block, that creature will not untap during our opponent's untap phase. So definitely another nice way to slow down our opponent. And then it also has hexproof as long as we control those illusions. So this is really good in certain like mid-rangey matchups, things like that, where they're running creatures and removal. And then a couple of Agent of Treacheries. Obviously, you guys probably know this card, 5 blue for a 2/3. When it enters, gain control of target permanent. And at the beginning of your end step, if you control 3 or more permanents you don't own, draw 3 cards. We just have the 2 of in the sideboard, so we're probably not going to... we don't have any bounce effects or anything like that, so we're just kind of using it in certain matchups. When we know the game is going to go late and we'll have mana open to cast this because we are pretty crazy on the ramp, we can come down and kind of steal whatever we need to do from our opponent's side. So, just a little trick that we have in our back sleeve in the right mid-rangey control type matchups. Alright, that's the deck, and let's jump into some best of 3 and see how we do. There we go. Voracious Nikya, Arena Standard best of 3. LVD and others have kind of featured this similar style of deck in previous standards, but now that we have a Nyxbloom Ancient and things like that, definitely felt it was worth another try. Okay, got a couple Incubation Druids, got a Nyxbloom Ancient, and it seems pretty solid. Let's give it a try. Obviously going to lead with Stomping Ground, so we can play the Druid next turn. Ginger Root, okay, so it could just be a mono blue artifact or a blue white artifact. Hoping to draw some more lands here. We have plenty of good spells in our hand. We just need more lands to keep going. Be careful how we use this Brontodon. So far they're showing mono blue with the Castle Garenbrig. Weaponsmith, that's interesting. Okay, we did draw a land. Kind of just want to get this Brontodon down in case they are running counter magic. If we draw another land next turn, we can Biogenic Ooze, or maybe we'll just Incubation Druid and just kind of wait and see what our opponent's up to. Yeah, Emery. Kind of figured they would be running that. Still trying to figure out what their big artifact payoffs are in mono blue. Steel Overseer, okay. So just a Steel Overseer deck looks like. Inquisitive Puppet, sure. So we just need to kind of slow down our opponent as much as we can, and then just kind of go over the top of them with our big ramp ability. So I'm not in a terrible spot here. Okay, so far they're just showing 3 power on board, so not too threatening just yet. I think I'm okay with attacking in with Brontodon here. I think we'll just play the Ooze. Just gonna jump block, sure. They're gonna exile. Our Ooze down. Let's try to go wide a little bit. See how you handle the Ooze army. Let's see, what do we got? 5. So still a couple lands away from the Nyxbloom Ancient. Could get our Druid down next turn. And then try to go big the following turn with a Hydroid Krasis or maybe a Nyxbloom Ancient if we keep drawing lands. Our opponent not too threatening. Sorcerer's Spyglass doesn't really do much against us. It can shut down. Well, I guess we do have a number of activated abilities on our creatures, so Brontodon could be annoying. Ooze, Incubation Druid, so we can't adapt. So it's a little annoying, but doesn't really do too much against us, honestly. Okay, so they're gonna prevent us from making oozes. That's unfortunate. Well, a little later on down the line, we can always sack the Brontodon to get rid of that Spyglass if we want. Steel Overseer isn't too threatening just yet, but obviously can get out of control here pretty quick, so we have to be careful. Alright, so they're representing 3 power on board, but then they would have to block with their Steel Overseer. So I think I'm fine with attacking. Hold the Druid back and go all in with the other 3. And if they want to take out our Ooze, then that's fine. Nope, they're just going to take it. Get our second Brontodon down. We want to just ramp. So we have to be careful to maybe leave one man open on the Brontodons at some point. If these Overseers get out of control or something. Okay, the Brontodon can take out the Stone Coil. was a land. Do we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? We do have Nyxbloom Ancient mana. We're putting pretty good pressure on our opponent, so I think I'm okay with just going to combat here. And again, we'll just attack all and hold the druids back. And we'll probably end up using one of the Brontodons to kill this Stonecoil Serpent. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I'm fine with Krasis for 4. Let's have a way to deal with this Krasis. Should be game over next turn. We got our Nikya and our Nyxbloom, but looks like the game's going to be over before those are even relevant. So now just a matter of how we want to sideboard. Do need to be mindful of these Steel Overseers, as things can get out of control here pretty quick. I'm going to tap it, and they probably have a corridor monitor yet, and tap it. They don't have any way to deal with the Hydroid Krasis, unless they're running like a unsummon or something like that. I don't think these decks usually run that kind of thing. Okay, they're going to Emery just to bring the Stonecoil back and play it for what, 1, 2, 3. The Overseer can tap to make it a 4/4. It does have protection from multicolored. Alright, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 creatures on board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can at least get through for 3 if we attack all and adapt an Incubation Druid, since that's the one least likely to get blocked. However, they're going to lose most of their things in the exchange. So they can block the Krasis with the Stonecoil, and they won't take any damage, but it'll kill it. Yeah, I mean, our opponent's not really in a great spot here, so I think I'm fine with just attacking all. And we'll adapt one of these Druids, depending on how they block. Yep. There's the Overseer. They don't have great blocks. We'll see how they choose to do this. Stonecoil Serpent on the Biogenic Ooze and letting the Krasis through. I'm not sure I understand that. The 4 in the air is going to kill you, buddy. Wait, what are they blocking? The Brontodon. I don't think it matters. Just kill the Overseer. Yeah, opponent's had a good game, so it's a good game. I'm not sure why they didn't block Krasis. Just have to block the Krasis with the Stonecoil Serpent, and then just hope you maybe draw into something. Maybe string some spells together. Use Emery to get some stuff back. Alright, so definitely want the Brontodons. Klothys is just okay. Ooze is just okay. It does help us kind of go wide a little bit, presenting blockers since they're trying to go wide as well. So maybe we'll leave those. Do want the Ceratops since they are mostly blue. Half blue, half artifacts. Do we want these healers? Do we want the Phoenix of Ash? I mean, the Stone Coil blocks these just fine. Agent of Treachery is interesting, but I don't think it really matters. I think the Benthid is pretty cool though. We'll just trim Klothys all together. And we need to cut 2 more. And the ramp plan is a little slow. Maybe we'll just trim one of those guys off and try it like that. Let's see how we do here in game 2. Obviously they get the Overseer down right away, and that's a much different game. Even got the Tezzeret avatar for their artifact deck. That's pretty sweet. Still, Overseer is pretty powerful if you aren't able to keep it in check. I think they just got off to a little bit of an awkward start, and that gave us a nice opening. And then having the main deck Thrashing Brontodons was pretty huge. It's a little slow, but we do have all of our fixing here, so I think we'll try it. Our Ceratops, one of our sideboard pieces, so obviously we want to see that in this matchup. So yeah, let's just keep it and see how we do. Get these breeding pools down and save the Fabled Passages to figure out if we need any fixing. Hero is just what we wanted. Turn 2 Ginger Brew, that's fine. Double camp. Another Euro. Sure. Not too upset to see that. Give us a nice life gain to kind of stem the Ginger Brute beat down the opponent's given us. Manifold Key, that works really well with our deck. Next turn we can Mountain and Euro. And then get the Fabled Passage down with Euro's ability. 5 lands the following turn to get the Ooze down. A nice little scry from the puppet. Just get our red source down, 0. Life back. And get the passive down. Grab another green source since we're pretty green heavy. Next turn we can Ooze, or we can Euro plus maybe Paradise Druid. Temur. So they just need a Steel Overseer here, and they're off to the races. They did mill a unsummon, so that's interesting. Beast Whisper. Do want to get that down, but I do still have a handful of cards, so I don't think it's critical. I think the Euro and Paradise Druid is our best play. Just to be mana efficient. And the next turn we'll have some pretty sweet options. I don't need to pay for that. Just Forest. Paradise Druid, say go. Alright, so we have next turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana open. So we can Beast Whisperer and Ceratops next turn. That's pretty sweet. So crack the Fabled Passage. Maybe just grab another blue source. Just because. And Beast Whisperer plus Ceratops. do want to find our Brontodon, because his Stone Coil can get pretty big. Just a 4/4 for now, but with Trample. Do you care about Ginger Brute? I don't think so. We do have some nice life gain in our deck, so we'll take our beats. Back our Fabled Passage. Fill up our graveyard for escape if we want to get our Euro back a little bit later on. Let's grab an island just to make sure we're nice and balanced. Beast Whisperer first. We'll Ceratops and draw a card. Hydra's pretty good. The only card that I'm worried about right now really is the Stone Coil Serpents. Emery can be annoying because it can just keep getting the artifacts back from the graveyard. The Ginger Brute, as long as it doesn't have any big equipment or enchantments on it. I'm not too worried about just taking one here, one there. I think we can afford to keep taking some beats here. Try to Hydra the Stone Coil Serpents. It's kind of the biggest threat, I think, although Emery can just get it back. Benthid is interesting. And all the blue creatures are just one powered anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. I want to attack with the Ceratops, and if they want to block with the Stone Coil Serpent, then we'll get our Hydra down and take out Emery, so they can't just get it back. Or they could just take it here since they're at 20. Or they could jump block with the Puppet. I don't think we need to put any mana to trample for one. Just want to leave our options open. Alright, so we want to... I want to do this for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'll leave 2 mana open, so just 4, I think. And we can also play our Incubation Druid. Brontodon, perfect. Now let's fight Emery. So I'm sure they were hoping to get their Stone Coil Serpent back. Well, I guess they can probably still do that. Okay, that's fine. So got it off the board for now, so we'll limit their options for future turns. We got the Benthid, we got the Ooze, and we got the Brontodon, so I think we're in pretty good shape here. Castle Garenbrig is nice. That was what they were holding up. Scry to the bottom, perfect. Definitely feels like we're in a good spot here. Getting in for one with the Ginger Brute, and you got it. Probably just Ooze and Brontodon next turn. And third Corridor Monitor. And we got the Krasis to follow up. Alright. I think we just attack in with our Hydra. Start putting the beats on them. We have Trample, so if they want to jump block, that's fine. If they choose to exile, then all 4 damage tramples through, so we're okay with that. Ooze. Draw a card. Opponent says, oops, yeah. Weren't thinking about the trample. And if our opponent doesn't concede here, we should be able to get our Nikya down and show them what our deck can really do. With Nyxbloom Ancient. We go to Nikya, draw a card of Beast Whisperer, and then see what we find. Yeah, I think we're in pretty good shape unless they have some way to bounce everything back to our hand. But there's not really anything in standard like that except for like Flood of Tears, but it doesn't really fit with their deck. They're gonna get to draw some cards thanks to the Witching Well. It's a pretty sweet card. And a third Castle Garenbrig. Getting in with the Ginger Brute. Yeah, you got it. Got us on a nice 15 turn clock. Holding 2 cards in hand, but just 1 mana open. Right, start with Nikya. Draw. Hoping for a Nyxbloom Ancient here. Another Hydra. Just to get down a big boy, or we could Hydroid Krasis just to find our Nyxbloom Ancient. What do we have? Plenty of cards in our library still. We have 6, 8, 11. We could do it for 9. Draw a card of Beast Whisperer, plus draw off the Hydroid Krasis. There's our next explanation. Unsummon on the Krasis. That's fine, we don't really care too much about that. Just attack with our Voracious Hydra. Keep everything else back. Discard 2 cards. Well, hopefully they don't have a way to deal with our Nikya. I don't need more card draw. I probably could have tossed the Paradise Druid as well. I think we just want to lead with Nyxbloom Ancient. Uh-oh, we can get a Spyglass back. I don't know what they would name. I'm just going to attack all. I think they're feeling a little out of it. I'll say no problem. Alright. So yeah. Deck is pretty sweet. Obviously, if we had gotten our Nikya and Nyxbloom off, which we were just about to, then we could have done some pretty stupid stuff. Yeah, the deck's a lot of fun. I'd recommend you guys give it a try. And hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.